All right, y'all, this is going to be a twofer because I was interested in what women had to say and what men had to say. So, here we go. Guys, what's the most nope thing you ever seen when you went to a woman's place for the first time? She didn't pick up her dog shit all over the floor and she just cleans it up at the end of the month. It was like navigating through a minefield. At the end of the month? What happens at the end of the month? To have a deadline is weirder than honestly no deadline at all. That's when Roomba starts smearing the poop into floor paste, laying the foundation for a new floor. You didn't just leave immediately? You actually walked through the minefield? We need details. Do not underestimate the power of horny. I'll fuck her, but I'm not coming back unless she calls again. I love man. Girl who lived in the same complex as me invited me over to watch a movie. I asked to use the bathroom and she hesitated on letting me go. She said her toilet was broken. So, me being the unhandy handyman, I said, let's take a look. Poop. She had been pouring water on her poop and toilet paper and pushing it down with a wooden stumpy thing next to the toilet. The chain in her reservoir had broken, so it wasn't filling with water. Very sweet girl, but I was never going to look at her the same after that. Her apartment was filthy, especially the bathroom, but it was just tolerable enough for my 20 something self to stick through it. Her bed sheets didn't feel very clean to me, but I was committed at this point. We did the deed, and she wanted me to finish on her tummy, so I obliged. She proceeded to roll around in her bed, smearing the cum everywhere, and said she wanted the smell of me in her bed tomorrow. I almost hung out with her again. Ever see one of those nuclear test videos where the face of people watching the test start rippling and stretching back as a shockwave hits them? That's when I experienced when she opened the door in front of me. Except it was a shockwave of a hot stench of piss and an ungodly amount of cats that pissed everywhere but the litter box. I gagged and almost threw up. I couldn't wrap my head around any human possibly tolerating or growing immune to that genuinely horrifying stench. Even my unfathomably horny 21-year-old self didn't care about how hot she was. The odor blasting out of her open front door was far too revolting to step foot inside. So, to answer the question, I didn't see a thing because I never passed her front door. Didn't quite nope out of this situation, but I came close. This was 13 years ago, and I had moved to Los Angeles. I had made an online dating profile, and with 2 days of living out there, began talking with someone. We hit it off pretty quickly, and on our third date, we went to a restaurant near her apartment. She needed to drop by her place real quick to feed the dog and use the restroom. While she was in the restroom, I was playing with her dogs, and I noticed DVDs on her coffee table. The top one was a DVD version explaining Dianetics of the Church of Scientology. While I didn't constantly practice any type of religion, I have heard enough about Scientology to believe it wasn't for me. As I'm sitting there, looking at the DVD case, trying to find a way how to extricate myself from the situation. She returns from the restroom, she clocks what I'm looking at, and immediately says, "Oh, don't worry. They were offering free breakfast." So I went for the free breakfast, and they gave me this on my way out. I've been happily married to this woman for the past 11 years. A big old dookie still in the toilet, cigarette butts in the sink, half eaten spaghetti still on the stove, all crusty, three cats, a crazy dog, a bearded lizard that just stared at me through the glass, no sheets on the bed, and she was taking bong rips of tobacco that she emptied from the half smoked butts in the ashtray. I'm sorry, but bong rips of tobacco? I've never heard of such a thing. She sounds like a real gem. Trailer park hookah. We took a shower together, and her towel was stiff as a board, literally crunchy. I jokingly asked when the last time she washed her towel was, and she completely. I jokingly asked when the last time she. I jokingly asked when's the last time she washed her towel, and she said, completely serious, "Why would I wash my towel? It only ever touches me when I'm clean." Dated this woman 3 years ago. I was 45 at the time and she was 49. This was our third date in under a month. She seemed very nice, well dressed, well spoken, and hot. Divorced for 7 years. We had been to my place a few times, and now it was time to go to her place. Her apartment looks nice, but had an odd odor. I know right away it was mold. She said she had called her landlord. It was not awful, but it was there. She went to pour me some water as the cup she gave me was filthy. So was hers. I stopped her and she was like, "Oh, I didn't notice." Went to get another and they were also all dirty. When I saw her open her cabinets, all the dishes were dirty, but put away. I was like, "Hey, let's call it a night." We stopped meeting and text our parting ways. A friend dated a girl who kept used tampons in her wall. Like there was a hole in the wall of the house and she put them in there. No words. Started chatting someone up on Insta and eventually she invited me over to hang. The place was in a terrible neighborhood. I was already getting ready to bail when she stepped out of her front door and waved my car into the parking spot. Gave her a hug and she seemed really kind and excited to see me, so I figured I'd run with it. Then I walked into her living room, which was completely empty except for a stack of wooden pallets, and I was positive I was going to die. She walked in her bedroom, which was straight through the living room, so I could still see her as I slowed my pace in case it was an ambush. Watched her pull the sheets down and pat the bed like she was inviting me to sit. And all the candy wrappers and trash and fast food wrappers that were revealed by the sheets being pulled down hopped around as she patted the mattress. Told her I was super sorry, but I made a mistake about being ready to hook up with someone so soon after my last relationship. I haven't dated anyone in years. And I tailed back to my car. We went to her bedroom, and not only was the mattress on her floor, her toddler was asleep in the crib next to the mattress. It might not have been so weird if A, the child wasn't facing the mattress, B, if she had mentioned having a child while we were out, and C, we were out and the kid was in the crib the whole time. Had I known then what I know now, I would have called CPS. But I was pretty young and didn't know a thing about services like that. This wasn't a date or a social situation. I was fostering kittens through a local animal shelter, but needed to go out of town. I contacted the shelter and they put me in touch with another foster who agreed to take my babies for a few days. I met this woman at her house, but just handed over the carriers in her driveway. I didn't go in. If I had, I might have canceled my vacation right there. I foster kittens a lot. I have a spare bedroom with hardwood floors that I can sterilize. The kittens never leave the room while I'm fostering. They have multi kitten sized litter boxes, one per kitten, although they aren't picky. And they have a food bowl, plus plenty of toys and items to play with. When I came back to this woman's house, she asked me in to collect the kittens. Okay, maybe she just hadn't had a chance to put them in their carriers. Nope, the house was a disaster. There were kittens running everywhere. There were open cans of cat food just placed on the floor around the house, piles of poop everywhere. She had two full size litter boxes in the closet that the kittens wouldn't even be able to climb in. She even asked me if I had tips on how to encourage the kittens to poop in the litter box. Her adult cat was lying on the couch with kittens running all over the place. She had no idea which ones were mine, and I had to hunt for them all around her filthy house. I got mine out of there fast and checked them for fleas and worms. I called the shelter and told them about her, even sent pics that I took when she wasn't looking. They said they wouldn't let her have kittens until some of the ones they did have got adopted. Apparently, she kept requesting more and more, and the shelter kept handing them over. I don't understand why the fuck this nasty ass bitch had a whole wooden stick on the side. So disappointed in women. Let's see what women have to say about men. Girls, what's the most nope thing you've ever seen when you went over to a guy's place for the first time? He had spilled milk on the floor from earlier that day and had just put paper towels over it so it was rotten on the floor. His bedroom floor was covered in dirty laundry, including an old thong his ex left behind. Then he said his mom would usually come over and clean, but she hadn't been over in a few weeks. Only one bed that he shared with his male roommate, who I guess was about 50 years old. We were 19. He had brought me to his place to make out. The roommate was there, made up an excuse to get the fuck out, walked to the next corner, and took off running. Bed with no sheet, no pillowcases on the pillows, and very stained mattress. Smells like dirty, greasy hair. I cat sit for a friend a while ago. He was well dressed and a groomed guy. He had two cats. One, I guess, was old, so it just pooped all over the apartment. It reeked. Also, was a mess and had no bedding either. My other friend was with me and felt so bad she ordered him a comforter set. And there was shit in the toilet that had not been flushed, fist-sized holes in the wall. I once dated a guy for a few months before visiting his place. He was a very attractive guy, making six figures in a professional job. He wore suits to work and on our dates. When I walked inside his house for the first time, it was a literal mess, with trash and debris littered all over the floor. My eyes caught focus on something on the floor near the bed, and it was a used tampon. Not my tampon. Not his tampon. How long had it been there? Who did it belong to? These are questions. His house was gross, but this random tampon was a cherry on top for me. Reminds me of my first long term boyfriend in his 30s, attorney, great salary, gorgeous downtown apartment in an HCOL city. His bedroom was covered with dirty clothes and trash to the point where you couldn't see the floor, and he slept on the mattress on the floor. I had so many horror stories of hooking up with college guys in my 20s that I thought dating a 31-year-old man might end my bad streak. Ladies, if they don't bother to do chores when they're younger, they won't magically start doing them in their 30s or 40s. If you walk into his place and sees nothing wrong with this mess, you've got a glimpse into your future. He won't see it after marriage and kids either. We've been dating for about weeks, 3 or 4 dates in total. I went to his apartment for the first time, and he had an A4 size close up photo of my face. No neck or shoulders, no body, just my face. Framed, mounted on the wall right next to his 5-year-old son's photo. I had gone over that day to help seal up some windows from the pending storm. The photo freaked me out, but I held my composure. Sealed the windows, gave him a peck on the cheek goodbye, and got out of there as fast as I could. Went home, waited a bit, and then sent him a "this ain't gonna work, take that photo down" type of message. I went to the bathroom and found multiple pictures of random pregnant women taped on the walls, and 3 boxes of rubber gloves stacked behind the back of the toilet. A guy brought me back to his place on the third or fourth date. He had a roommate. When I went to use their restroom, I walked in and immediately stepped right into fresh human poop. Oh my God. How did she know it was human? Horrified, I cleaned my foot off and told my date what happened. He just shrugged and said, "Oh, yeah, that happens sometimes." Apparently, that's not uncommon for his roommate to miss the toilet. He told me he rented a room in the house, except the room ended up being a garage. And no, it wasn't converted. He asked me if I wanted some airflow and grabbed the clicker. Wire mesh on the walls, ceilings to protect from radio waves. He also lived with his uncle, that stereotype conspiracy theorist uncle type. In his car, the passenger side floor was covered in bits of fingernail that he had bitten off and spit out. Roaches. Which I know is obvious as fuck. But to make it worse, he called the roaches his roommates. And even more worse, he didn't want to hurt them because he was vegan. Yep. His ex wife, that I didn't know about, throwing his clothes out of their shared house. That was fun. Sorry, my roommate is a little dramatic. Several cans of empty Vienna sausages, with just the weird juice rotten in them. Nope. The first time my now wife had came over, I had black gloves on the shelf in the living room. They had rubber on the palm and fingers with the little cones. You put them on to pet your cat. Cats like it, gloves collect fur. When you've had enough, it all peels off the sheet. Very handy. She saw them and thought I'd left out some BDSM gear. Didn't mention anything at the time, but have not freaked her out too much though. 6 years and 2 kids later, here we are. Completely empty. A couple of boxes in the corner, nothing in the fridge, not even condiments. I asked him, "Did you just move in?" He said, "Nah, I've been here for like 3 years." It really weirded me out. When I was younger and extremely naive, I met a guy in his apartment for the first and last time. I can't remember if we knew mutual people or not, but he worked at a local police department, and I stupidly thought that that made me safe or that he had his life together. I didn't make it very far inside, but it was small enough to see the majority of it. He had an air mattress for a couch. He had just cooked some taco meat, which smelled terrible, and offered me some tacos that I refused. Then wanted to watch a movie on the air mattress, Upon a closer look while he was talking to me, it appeared that he possibly had severe case of gingivitis. I suddenly had an emergency and had to leave. I'd done stupid things, but that one may have taken the cake. I'll say it's probably not the most nope, but I was single for a long time and had bought my house, but between working cabins and trips, I wasn't there a ton. It just didn't make sense to me to have a bunch of decorations which cost money and do nothing for me, so I just didn't have them. There was nothing in the house that didn't serve a purpose for me. I brought a woman I had been dating for a few weeks back there, and she stopped in the entryway and said it looked like a serial killer house. So, like an alien trying to assimilate, I went to the Bed Bath and Beyond, but none of these made sense for me. So I grabbed a small painting of a clown that made me smile, hung it in the middle of the giant wall. It looked like Mona Lisa. A weird recycled metal sculpture for the entryway, and a scented candle that I put on the dining room table. She walked in the next time and, and said, I don't know why, but this is much worse. She said, it looks like a serial killer's house, so you bought a painting of a clown? That's awesome. Thank you. I think we may be friends that haven't met yet. Wow. And with the empty houses, almost all of my friends in the younger 20s, like when they were first single and got their own places, that's how their houses were. I don't think that straight men, and I'm not, no offense to if you are a straight man and you're a decorator, but for most straight men, I don't think that's a normal thing in your head, like, oh, I'm a decorator. That's a woman's touch. That's when you get your wife and the love of your life, and she puts that touch on it. She makes a house a home. So I think that's why most men don't have stuff. And then also with the not cleaning, I'm not surprised. The one that said that his mom was coming over to clean. Honestly, yeah, that's a red flag right there. Ditch him because he's obviously a mama's boy. But then so much of a mama's boy that she coddles him even as an adult? Nah, ain't no way. And then the day, the people's nasty and crazy. Please, folks, clean your house if you're going to have somebody come over. And I don't care if they're a friend, potential date, or potentially just getting you some. Clean up. Or there's people out there that are lazy. That's why they make closets and under your bed. Utilize them. I don't know. I don't know. But please, clean up. And what is up with all this poop? People poop, cat poop, dog poop. Poop is disgusting of all sorts, okay? That's why our bodies don't even want it in us. Get it out, you know? I cannot. People are so disgusting, dude. I'm ashamed for men and women. We got to do better, guys. We got to. Men, y'all don't have to fill up your house with stuff. Don't. That's okay. But cleaning, women, ain't no way you putting dishes back in that cabinet dirty. Come on now. My thing is, if you're not a dishwasher, because I have a friend who hates washing dishes by any means necessary. So guess what? She buys paper, everything. One time she invited us over because she was cooking dinner. This girl even cooked in the aluminum pans that are $1 at the local Walmart. Yeah, she don't play. So it is possibilities. And never had dishes in there. I mean, I know those are pricey, but hey, that's the price you have to pay if you don't want to wash your own doggone dishes. But anyways, if y'all made it to the end, thank y'all so much. Y'all have a good rest of y'all day and God bless. Bye.